Test, test. Test, test. Test, test. Still no? She said more? More. We're volume trying to testing, testing. Let me switch to Lucky you. Okay, everything's good. It's just like. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you don't want me to do anything.
So they're in the order starting from here.
Right over there. I was reading some stuff about we had a conversation about okay. Okay.
And then rewards of all the children and 26 because that's where the video is. All set?
Good afternoon. My name is Erik Nasarenko, the Ventura County District Attorney, and today we honor crime victims. Not just today, but every day of each year. You are part of history. This is the first time the Ventura County District Attorney's Office has held National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and the commemorative ceremony we're conducting this afternoon in the city of Simi Valley. And it's fitting that we are holding National Crime Victims' Rights Week in Simi Valley because in 1981, the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, proclaimed April of each and every year as the month we recognize, support, protect, defend, and honor crime victims. So it's fitting that at the home of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, the city of Simi Valley, we give voice, hope, and strength to crime victims. Thank you for being a part of this. Before I introduce our dignitaries, I want you to be aware of what the theme is for this commemorative ceremony. Each and every year, a theme is selected. This year, it is survivors' voices. To elevate those voices, to engage those voices, and to make sure that we engage each and every crime victim to affect change. We in the Ventura County District Attorney's Office are fortunate to have victim advocates, investigators, as well as district attorneys who serve, protect, and defend our victims. We also have an outstanding sheriff's department, as well as an outstanding Simi Valley Police Department, which does the same. Can you please join me in a big round of applause for those departments? We will be discussing in particular the scourge of human trafficking, both the trafficking of individuals for labor purposes as well as sexual exploitation. We want to highlight and accentuate how serious this crime is and how it is occurring in each and every neighborhood, unfortunately, of our county. Before we do so, I want to thank the city of Simi Valley, in particular, the city of Simi Valley City Council, Steve Shorts, the chief of police, as well as city manager Brian Gabler and assistant city manager Sam Argabright. Can you please give them a big round of applause? We are joined today by some very special elected officials and county leaders. I'd like to begin with the Chief Executive Officer of the County of Ventura, Savette Johnson. We're proud and honored to be in her supervisorial district. That's District 4 Supervisor Janice Parvin. And he's not only the Ventura County Sheriff, he's also a City of Simi Valley resident, Jim Fryhoff. We're also joined by Councilmember Rocky Rhodes. Rocky, are you here? And I'm delighted to learn that Mayor Fred Thomas will be joining us afterwards as we march. I'd also like to go ahead and recognize the Chief of the Bureau of Investigations, Chief Scott Whitney. On behalf of your local assemblywoman, here today is Nancy Frawley on behalf of Jackie Irwin. We also have on behalf of Congresswoman Julia Brownlee, Sarah Ruiz. And I'm delighted to also welcome from the Camarillo City Council, Dr. Martita Martinez Bravo. It's now my honor to bring forward Chief Steve Shorts and the Simi Valley Police Department Honor Guard for the presentation of the colors. Thereafter, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And thanks to our senior prosecutor, Amber Lee, she will engage and lead the national anthem. Thank you. Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight once so gallantly watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night, and our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Please be seated. In addition to having a fabulous and beautiful voice, as you just heard, Amber is a homicide prosecutor, assigned some of the most complex and serious cases in Ventura County, and we will be able to hear from her one more time in the conclusion of today's ceremony. It's now my pleasure to welcome the District 4 Supervisor, Janice Parvin, who will be presenting the Board of Supervisors proclamation naming Crime Victims' Rights Week for the week of April 23rd to the 29th.
Thank you. This is a very large proclamation. This is a resolution proclaiming the week of April 23rd through the 29th, 2023 as National Crime Victim Rights Week in Ventura County. Whereas the term victim is more than just a label and has a legal standing and protections that go along with it. Whereas Crime Victims' Rights Acts passed in California and at the federal level, guaranteeing victims the right to meaningful participation and use of their voice in the criminal justice process. And whereas the victim service providers, advocates, law enforcement officers, attorneys, and other allied professionals can help survivors find their justice by enforcing these rights. And whereas including and elevating the voices of survivors makes certain that they are heard and seen and creates a path to forging and sustaining community trust. And whereas engaging survivors through entities like the Family Justice Center creates and responses and services that are credible, meaningful, and centered on individual needs. And whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to listening to crime survivors in every space where decisions are made that can impact them. And whereas the County of Ventura is hereby dedicated to amplifying the voices of survivors and creating an environment where survivors have the confidence that they will be heard, believed, and supported. And now therefore be it resolved that the Ventura County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim April 23rd through 29th, 2023 as Crime Victims' Rights Week in the County of Ventura and honors crime victims and those who serve them during this week and throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Joey will get one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Harmon. It's now my pleasure to introduce Raquel Kelly. For those of you who do not know Raquel, she is a prosecutor in the Ventura County District Attorney's Office who's specifically assigned to the Human Trafficking Unit. She came to us after nearly 7 years in the San Diego District Attorney's Office, and she is a champion of crime victims. She brought something to my attention that she will share briefly with you in a PowerPoint slide, and that is a landlord engagement program. Rooting out those landlords, those property owners who do not use their properties responsibly. And I'm talking specifically about massage parlors that engage in illicit activities such as prostitution, human trafficking, and the washing of money, otherwise known as money laundering. She is also assigned to the Ventura County Human Trafficking Task Force, and I'm pleased and proud to introduce Raquel Kelly.
Thank you so much, Eric, for that kind introduction. As Eric mentioned, I am the prosecutor who is assigned to the human trafficking and sexual exploitation cases here in our county. And one of the ways that we as a community can embody the theme of National Crime Victims Week by elevate, engage, and change is to dispel some of the myths and misconceptions surrounding human trafficking. By educating ourselves and becoming aware of the red flags and what human trafficking actually looks like, we can help to root out this insidious crime. So today, I'm going to talk to you about some of the myths that you may be aware of that we've all heard, maybe a rap song that glamorizes the pimping lifestyle. Or maybe you've seen the movie Taken with Liam Neeson that mischaracterizes human trafficking in a way that's damaging to actual people who have experienced trafficking. The myth I hear most frequently, and the one that affects our survivors, our people that have experienced trafficking probably the most, is the belief that human trafficking doesn't happen here. Ladies and gentlemen, that could not be more inaccurate. Unfortunately, the West Coast is very vulnerable to human trafficking, as you can tell from this heat map. Our proximity to the border, our location in relation to Los Angeles, the fact that we're on the 101 corridor makes us particularly susceptible to human trafficking crimes. Specifically here in Ventura County, this is just a sampling of some news press releases of cases that have been prosecuted and investigated by the Human Trafficking Task Force. There are too many, but they're happening. And this doesn't even scrape the surface as to the human trafficking that we know is occurring in our community. So that is an absolute myth. Human trafficking is happening here, unfortunately. It's happening in our backyard. It's happening to people that we know. I often hear people say, well, they weren't forced into it. They weren't physically assaulted. They weren't chained. They weren't restrained. But what many people don't know is that human trafficking actually doesn't require physical force or restraint. There are many, many ways of coercion, but when it involves a minor, there is no such thing as child prostitution. If there is commercial sex involving a minor, it is human trafficking, period, end of story. Any minor that is engaged in commercial sex is a victim of human trafficking, regardless of whether or not they appear to be a willing or consensual party in that transaction. But even when it comes to adults, force, physical violence is not required. In fact, the penal code actually carves out numerous ways that you can coerce someone to engage in either labor or sex trafficking that don't require even a touch or any physical harm. In fact, the penal code, the statute, the law actually sets out ways like fraud or false promises, reputational harm, threats of misuse of the legal process, immigration threats. All of those things are forms of coercion recognized by the law for purposes of human trafficking. So just because someone isn't showing you their black eye or isn't chained to a pole in a basement, that's not what human trafficking actually looks like. And although that certainly that can be an aspect of it, what we know is that like kidnapping, human trafficking is less than 1% of the actual human trafficking crimes that occur. I often hear people say, well, human trafficking, it only happens like in criminal circles or in criminal enterprises, right? That's also not the case. It's happening here. It's happening on our farms, in the labor industries. It's happening online, on social media. It's happening in our schools. It's happening in our group homes, and it's happening in residences all around in our community. And so you are all on the front lines for being able to detect that. Erik spoke briefly about this landlord engagement program, and you'll see that massage is listed there, massage parlors. We've done a recent investigation has revealed that we have at least 82 open and erotic illicit massage businesses operating in our county. 82, that's more than Starbucks coffee storefronts. And these are often fronts for human trafficking enterprises. We're allowing that to operate in broad daylight. And so the landlord engagement program is something that will work to address and make people open their eyes rather than using willful blindness as an excuse to allow human trafficking to operate on their premises. We know that in the labor trafficking industry, that in reality, labor trafficking is happening in predominantly in domestic work, home cleaning, nannies, things like that, but then quickly followed by agricultural labor. We are an agricultural community. It is happening here. We often think, well, that only would happen to someone who's engaged in really human trafficked. Ladies and gentlemen, I've seen very educated people wind up survivors of human trafficking. I've seen individuals who are raised in a close, tight-knit family that goes to church every Sunday. It can happen to anyone. And some of the red flags or the vulnerabilities that these traffickers are masters at exploiting are things like social isolation or lack of belonging. This is very prevalent among our LGBTQ plus community. Prior physical or sexual abuse. It's believed that almost 97% of human trafficking victims have experienced prior sexual abuse. Financial insecurity. A lot of our people who have experienced human trafficking are simply there to survive. That is the only way they know to make money to survive. And so they end up in these situations. Obviously, homelessness, displaced from their community or family of origin, mental health issues, substance use and abuse, which is also a legally recognized form of coercion if substance abuse is being used. Also, unhealthy interpersonal relationships. We know that domestic violence and human trafficking have significant overlap. So what does human trafficking look like here? Well, it can look like a romantic partner or a friend. The first image you see there is a 20-year-old woman with no criminal record that is now a convicted human trafficker. She engaged in a romantic relationship with a 15-year-old girl, and the 15-year-old girl believed that she was in love with her trafficker, which is often the case. This individual preyed on her vulnerabilities and groomed her and made her take tiny steps outside her comfort zone until before long she was engaging in commercial sex with adult men. It can look like a social media friend. This might just be someone that they connect with online because they posted that they hated their parents today and that they were unhappy. And so this person sees that vulnerability and exploits it and becomes that friend, that connection. But then before long is asking for things such as illicit photos, or maybe sending money and saying, when the kid says they couldn't afford that pair of shoes, they offer, well, I can send you a gift card, but you need to send me something in return. All of these are ways that these exploiters groom and traffic these individuals. And then we know that human trafficking often happens in the context of an employer. They make a promise. It may be that they can be paid this amount, or that they'll help with their immigration process. And then they exploit that relationship and that power dynamic and take advantage of our victim. So what are we doing about it? Well, for starters, we're doing events like today, raising awareness and increasing the visibility of human trafficking. We have amazing community partners, as you can see from all the tables throughout this event. And we also have a very active victim service hotline. It's an easy number to remember. If you see something, say something, 211. All you got to do, you can check it out online. You can call if you ever have a concern that there may be something that just feels off. We also have an aggressive task force, and aggressive investigations result in aggressive prosecutions. Our task force is constantly responding to leads. They're going to call out. We are partnered with every law enforcement agency in our county to prevent human trafficking from occurring here and to stop it when we know it had occurred. And then we are employing some innovative solutions. One of our amazing award recipients here today has actually, she has kind of spearheaded one of our awesome efforts to intervene with the trafficking that's happening in our group homes. Detective Kellen King goes out to the group homes, not just to respond to calls for service, but to go out there and build rapport and build a sense of trust with these very, very vulnerable people and this demographic that we know is being taken advantage of. And then the landlord engagement program that Erik talked about, where we're letting landlords know what their liability is, but also their rights and their responsibilities, not only as professionals, but as humans. And then we collaborate with our area partners as well. We're working with Los Angeles. We're working with the Santa Barbara Human Trafficking Task Force, much in part to another of our award recipients' collaboration skills. Detective Katie Torres has linked us with so many of our community partners and our law enforcement partners from other agencies. So with all of that, we can work to curb this insidious crime. And so with that, I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming out today to support our victims in the fight against human trafficking. Now, it is my privilege and my honor to introduce to you our next speaker. This woman is a force. She embodies the theme of National Crime Victims' Rights Week, because every day she works to elevate survivors' voices, because she works with individuals who have experienced trafficking. Every day she engages, she does training, she works with law enforcement, And she is educating everyone on what trafficking actually looks like and what we can do about it. And she affects change, not only on the local level, but on the state level. She's a member of the CSEC Advisory Board, which is the Commercially Sexually Exploited Children Advisory Board. So she's giving policy advice to the state. Not only is she doing it on the state level, she's actually even done it on the international level. She's testified for Parliament. So it is my honor to introduce to you our next speaker, Alia Deweese. Thank you. I appreciate that, Nicole. Had me tearing up a little bit.
Years to go. And his reaction to that was, so there I was in the middle of the night with workout shorts and a sports bra, no shoes, no phone, no money, no purse, just really left by myself. And it was there that I really made the choice of I can go back without that wool over my eyes and with total clarity of what I was getting into in the industry. Or I could commit suicide, or I could do the one thing that I had watched one girl do when she was able to actually get out successfully. And so in my mind, the industry will always be there, suicide will always be there. And this is my one chance.
Thank you. I think a lot of people have a misconception about what it means. I'm privileged recently to act as an expert witness in one of DA Kelly's cases. And at one point, the defense asked me if I got into this work because of the things that had happened to me. And this is actually a question that I end up getting a lot, and it's always very exciting to me when most difficult moments of my life has never been about what happened to me or getting justice for myself. It has always been about what is still happening to other people and getting to be a part of their journey towards exit, justice, and survivorship. Everyone who enters this field as a survivor is performing an act of sacrifice and service. We all wish that we could walk away, but we know that we can't while there are still other people being victimized. That is why days of recognition like this one are so valuable and so honoring. My lived experience, my survivorship has given me the privilege of understanding our justice system, our law enforcement, our victim and social services, and our local crises from a 360-degree perspective. When I left this area to get services, our county had barely started to open its eyes to what was going on around us. At that point, there weren't the services here that I needed to get to the point where I am today. When I knew it was time for me to move back a little over 2 years ago, I really did so kicking and screaming. I had no desire to move back to Ventura County, and really I had a lot of resentment for the ways in which I felt like my community had failed me. However, I am a huge advocate for and a believer in transferable skills. Every survivor was forced to develop skills to keep us alive. And some of these need to be shed as we exit, and others we can shape and form to serve ourselves and to serve others. One of the things that I learned to do while living in survival mode for so many years was to always be looking for the next piece of the puzzle. What needed to be changed or fixed or created to get me through to tomorrow. And that's one of the transferable skills that serves me well in my work now. And it was with this mindset that I walked back into our county. I felt that if what we had when I left wasn't enough to get me out, then the only response for me was to be a part of rectifying that. I can't begin to explain how excited I was when I came back to see that so many of you had already worked so diligently to advance us from where we were in such a short amount of time. Even more so, how honored I've been to be welcomed in and valued as I've worked alongside you to create more opportunities for healing and equitable access to care for all survivors. As the first of what I hope will be many publicly disclosed local survivors devoting their lives towards broadening the thin road we walk in our journey to exit, I'm grateful for the incredible support of the allies like you in our community who work day in and day out to serve the survivors I hope to one day share this platform with, and who have opened their doors to the value of lived experience voices and had me speak, consult, and participate in your projects and efforts. But even more so, I recognize the survivors who have been in this work in our county before I got here, but have chosen not to or entered into this work at a time where it would have hurt them to disclose publicly their survivorship. As an expert with lived experience who is benefiting from the work you have fought for, I see you. I thank you, and I promise to carry the torch as we pointing to the value we place on people who have been victimized by promising safety, justice, equity, representation, and a seat at the table. Thank you.
Wow. When you think about access, equity, survivor voices, your voice will be in our mind, in our hearts, and in our soul. And I want to thank you for empowering all of us, for giving voice to victims throughout this county and this state, and for continuing to share with others your own story, your own journey, and to see you here and to learn about your daughter in that performing arts program. It's heartwarming. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's really hard to add to what has just been said. And Nicole mentioned some of the responsibilities that Aaliyah already performs. I just want to go ahead and share with you again what some of those are. She is right now the director of aftercare for Safe House Project, a national organization combating human trafficking. You're also the local programs manager at Forever Found, a Ventura County organization serving exploited youth. And as Nicole mentioned, you are also a member of California's CSEC Action Team, which stands for Commercial Sexual Exploitation of Children, advising their advisory board. You also have testified on our behalf for offender accountability to make sure that these predators are held accountable for what they're doing. And you also participate in the Ventura County Human Trafficking Task Force. You work with local law enforcement, nonprofits, child family services, and our office, and you do so much more. We wish to give to you as a small recognition. I mentioned small, but it is really big because it reaches the entire county. This award, and it is named on behalf of resilience. It is the Justice for Resilience Award, and Aaliyah, we want to thank you for what you're doing on behalf of Ventura County.
I'll be really quick, but I just want to thank all of you and just testify to the incredible collaboration that our county is a part of, truly, and the desire to have people with lived experience in the organizations and at the table is very, very clear to me. And so I accept this with absolute honor, and I thank you for just seeing the importance, seeing the value that we as people with lived experience bring to the table, and continuing to broaden the aperture of who I hope will continue to be here in years to come as we see more survivors come into a place of healing that they can join us in this as well. So thank you.
Alita, before you go, you have a special family member here. Can you just go ahead and give a shout out?
Sure, my poor grandma, she's probably so embarrassed. My grandma is here. My grandma was the person who came looking for me in the middle of the night for many years and who called law enforcement. I don't know how many times. I think one time we had like 11 runaway calls in a series of 6 months, things like that. And who got her first gray hairs because of me and my exploitation. And so she was not able to come to my college graduation, and I thought this was even better to see kind of what the fruit of all of her sleepless nights and prayers were.
Will be presenting a award on behalf of somebody he knows very well, who works on behalf of the Simi Valley Police Department, Chief Schultz.
Well, thanks for coming out today and joining us today. What I want to do today is I want to talk about one of our detectives that is a bright star in our organization. And today she's going to be receiving the Justice for Victims Award. Detective King started with us in 2000 in a way that really comforted victims. In 2019, she was selected as the Family Justice Center liaison officer for our department, which really played an important role of having a nexus with our community members in the County Justice Center. Based on her hard work in 2021, Kellen was selected to be a detective in our Major Crimes Detective Unit. And some of her emphasis in that unit is on domestic violence, investigations on internet crimes against children, human trafficking, sexual assault. She has a relentless pursuit for justice for the victims in the community. She really goes out and works her casework with the really give and the care and the empathy, and the results are really clear and certainly have been recognized by organizations in our region. I know we talked a little bit about group homes, and I do want to emphasize this because sometimes people don't understand this about group homes. A lot of the children that are in group homes are there for a plethora of reasons, but you know, when we think about that, they haven't had parents to model the way, that they've been neglected, they've been abused, and they just simply haven't had the opportunities that I've had and other people have had for success, and that there's a group of people that are out there that target those folks in the group homes. And Kellen and her partner, Jessica Getches, thinking out of the box, taking time to go out and meet with the girls on a person-to-person basis, not a detective or police officer to one of the children in the home, but actually just trying to sit and set up a bond and give them an avenue and information and try to mentor them goes well beyond her responsibility. But what it really emphasizes the kind of person that she is. So we'd like to congratulate her here at Simi PD for her hard work. We're really proud of her. And thank you for coming out to support Detective King and Detective Torres.
Detective King, can you please come on up? I'm going to present Detective King in just a moment with the Justice for Victims Award, but before I do, I want to share a very short story. We had a retreat 2 months ago to plan the next Family Justice Center.
I already know where you're going with this.
And it was a 2-day retreat. What kind of services do we want for victims? What type of programs should be at that facility? What CBOs, government partners, nonprofits do we want housed there? And sometimes at these retreats, people kind of pop in and pop out. You're there for a morning, perhaps an afternoon, and then you leave, and we may not see you again. Kellen King the detective from the Simi Valley Police Department, was there for the entire full days. 2 days, pardon me. She was there on behalf of victims. She wants to make sure that the Family Justice Center is there to support, serve, and recognize them. And it's just one personal anecdote that I have that shows how committed you are to serving those in need, to serving those who need our assistance. And it is my honor to present to you the Justice for Victims Award.
See, where I really thought he was going to go with that was the first time I really sat down with DA Nasarenko was at lunch, and we were talking about our interests, and I said, I'm a basketball enthusiast. I love to play. And I asked him, you want to throw down? Got a ball in my car. And he wasn't fazed by it, so I was pretty impressed.
I gave the sanitized version.
I was expecting for you to dime me out in front of everyone, but thank you so much, DA Nasarenko. I would like to take this opportunity to share an experience that I had that has impacted how I do my job today. When I was in college, no, this was not just yesterday that this happened. My car was vandalized. I called the local police department and no one came. I was told that there was nothing that could be done. I remember feeling unheard and unaware of what my rights were as a victim. Over a decade later, I think back to this day when I'm now the detective responding to someone on their very worst day. I cannot even begin to truly understand what someone endures having experienced human trafficking, sexual assault, or domestic violence. But what I can do is think back to that day when I felt unheard and unaware of my rights. I asked myself, how can I better serve the victims in my community? Well, what it comes down to is I do the best I can each day to actively listen, to acknowledge someone's adversity, suffering, and provide them with the resources needed to navigate the criminal justice process. But more importantly, I think it's important that we realize for someone to be truly successful throughout this process, it requires teamwork. And I could not do my job without my teammates. It would be a huge disservice to our community if we didn't have the passion of DDA Kelly, the dedication of Forever Found, the killer work ethic of my partners, shout out, the diligence of our forensic nurses, and the hope instilled at the Family Justice Center. So I think it's important for us all to remember that there's no piece of the puzzle that is too small, no act of kindness that is too big. And most importantly, and for being the rock stars that you truly are. Thank you so much.
Before you leave, I want you to know I have a basketball in my trunk.
Oh, let's go. There's a park out there. Don't.
The parks, after the march, we'll go down.
Yes, I'm there.
Congratulations. Kellen just spoke about teamwork, and there is incredible teamwork and a strong and significant partnership between the Ventura County DA's office and the Ventura County Sheriff's Department. We are now collaboratively in partnership testing untested rape kits. We've launched a new, renewed focus to combat and address the fentanyl epidemic. We have also combined to suppress those who steal cars, introduce the leader of the Ventura County Sheriff's Department, who is here to present the next award, Sheriff Jim Fryhoff.
Certainly, I'd like to thank RDA, Erik Nasarenko, for inviting me to come speak. I'd like everybody to know that I've been cautioned to stay behind the podium. I tend to wander when I speak, so my parameters are now here, because apparently I'll block the screen and the light is bad, so I don't want Joe to get mad at me. So my recipient, Detective Katie Torres, I have her bio, which I could read to you, but I'll talk to you about the Katie that I know from when I met her when I was the chief of police in Ojai. I became the chief in 2017, and you talk about rock stars. Katie is an absolute rock star. She was my officer of the year. She led in every arrest category there is. She was dedicated to the community, received way more commendations, never complaints about the people she interacted with. She treated everybody so professionally. And I know she was, married to her husband's an Oxnard officer. She had a young daughter at the time. And I have 2 daughters. And I said, so when's the next one coming? And she was like, I really want to focus on my career. I don't have time to get pregnant right now. I don't want to get buried in the closet entering policy. I said, that's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. So she leaves. About 3 weeks later, she sends me a text. She goes, hey, can I come talk to you? And I said, yeah, of course. I thought she was working. She shows up. She's in sweats. She walks in her office and starts crying hysterically. So I get up, I close the door. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? What happened? She goes, I'm pregnant. I jump out, give her a big hug. I said, I'm so happy for you. And she goes, I don't want to enter policy. I said, hey, what I just heard was I have a new detective in the Ohio station. And she goes, you're not going to make me do policy? I said, no, I'm not going to waste your talent doing policy. I'm going to have you learn how to be a detective. You're going to learn how to write search warrants. You're going to learn how to interview our victims and work with your partners so we can make this county a better place. I'm going to take advantage of the talents that you have, the motivation you have to make us all better. I would never want to lose the motivation of somebody like Katie's Tower. She's fantastic. After I got to have her in Ohio for a short period of time, our Major Crimes Bureau learned that I had this rock star detective on light duty that was pregnant. So they said, hey, we could use some help here. So I sent her to Major Crimes where she got to work for several months until she had her baby. Now for the baby, she got to come back and work for me as a field training officer. And then when this human trafficking grant was awarded, Katie was selected to be the first detective to work with this human trafficking grant. It was a 3-year grant, but because she did such a great job, we were only one of a handful of counties that received the grant again. So we got another 3 years, which we will now have until 2025. In the time of this human trafficking task force, they have held accountable over 140 suspects. I am thankful that we have people like Katie Torres, Detective King, that are rising to the occasion to protect our victims, because that's what we all need. My recipient, Detective Katie Torres.
Should stay on that,
The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you very much. DA Nasarenko. Just have a couple words, but firstly, I want to thank my department for giving me the opportunity and always supporting me as we were beginning to form the Ventura County Human Trafficking Task Force. With that being said, I obviously have to give a huge shout out to the team that I worked with, the supervisors that I had, my teammates all in the back row, who provided me with unlimited mentorship, told me how terrible my ideas were, built me up to be a great investigator, and it has just been an amazing 3.5 years with the task force. With the theme of this week being about victims' rights, I also want to commend and thank all of the victims' survivor leaders who have come here and who have provided feedback to detectives and come to law enforcement and given us their insight of their most vulnerable times of their lives, and did that in hopes that we as law enforcement officers would build better rapport with victims when doing interviews and upon making contact, and then also giving us better tools on how to identify human trafficking within our community. Without that assistance, I think it is needless to say, multidisciplinary teams would not be exactly how they are if we're not coming together to work collaboratively. And we have had so many fantastic teams that have worked on this task force so far in the last 3 years, for come together to work towards this one amazing goal of tackling human trafficking within our. So with that being said, as I'm exiting out of the human trafficking realm and moving on with my career, handing over to new detectives on our task force, I'm just very excited to see this task force continue to flourish. And again, I'm honored for this award, so thank you. And again, I'm honored for this award, so thank you.
Just a few months ago, Mr. Optimus hosted a human trafficking workshop symposium, and Aaliyah, I met you there, and I just remember Katie afterwards, similar to what we will do after this event, we marched. We went through Main Street in Ventura, past the businesses in that pedestrian thoroughfare, and there you were with Kellen in the front, leading that march on behalf of human trafficking survivors and victims. Thank you. Walls, first through a short video clip. I'll say a few words about him and then welcome him to the podium.
Hi, and welcome to the Family Justice Center. My name is Dr. Anthony Walls. I am the medical director and primary care physician for Healthcare for Justice. Everything is purposefully designed to be trauma-informed in the care that we provide. And part of that is if somebody doesn't want any of the services, that's okay. If they want only one, that's okay. If they want all 25, that's okay. After the navigation process, and they were wanting to see us in clinic, we would then meet with them in our clinic space. So this is one of the two clinic space or clinic rooms that we have here at the Family Justice Center. This one is technically designated for Healthcare for Justice. We're just grateful to be able to be here. We owe so much to the DA's office and getting this grant, the grant in order to provide this infrastructure that lets us provide the care that is so needed by this patient population. So thank you to the Family Justice Center and welcome.
So let me show you just a little bit about Dr. Walls. He is a graduate of Boston University School of Medicine, where he specialized in emergency and family medicine. He is the founder of Healthcare for Justice, a local nonprofit which was formed to provide free of charge, trauma-informed, direct primary care to victims and survivors of both human trafficking and domestic violence. This population has sustained such severe forms of psychological and physical trauma that they now face many barriers to successfully rehabilitate to a life of freedom. Lack of transportation, language, as well as cultural barriers, not to mention fear, all of which prevent this population from seeking and sometimes having access to healthcare, without which many of these victims will stay isolated in physical and psychological captivity, and they will never be able to journey back on the road of recovery. Healthcare for Justice accepts referrals from a variety of agencies, and it provides general healthcare services on site at the Ventura County Family Justice Center, as you just saw on the video. All clients are connected to victim advocates, many of whom are here. Thank you. And it connects these victims to eligible services through fellow FJC, also known as Family Justice Center partners. It is an honor and a privilege, Dr. Walls, to give this Justice for Service Award to you on behalf of what you do to bring healing, hope, and recovery to crime victims throughout Ventura County. Thank you.
Feel you want to say a few words? Sure. Yeah, please.
I'm honored to be here, and more specifically, I'm honored to be able to have a dream come true at the same time as so many other like-minded organizations. The Family Justice Center offers a place for both non-governmental and governmental organizations that work together towards the same goal, to work in the same place, but also it transcends the location. We get to know how to help an individual victim from any stage that they're in. I'm going to give you a quick example and I won't be long. Actually, a patient of mine that I have been treating for 6 years now, who is a victim of sexual assault, has never been wanting, for many reasons, to report the case and make it an official report, but she did want health care. This patient, literally just this week, is now ready to file and make a report. The point is that I believe, so do all of the other organizations under the umbrella of the Family Justice Center, I believe that every victim has the right to justice. But I've learned, and I know, every victim has different barriers they struggle with in pursuit of that justice. And so I'm just honored to be able to have a space where those who want to start in the medical side of it then can get brought into the fold of justice. So if anything, can we all give a round of applause for the Family Justice Center and for today? Thank you.
For those of you who are wondering, how many victims in the city of Simi Valley has the Family Justice Center served in the last couple of years? If you're going to ask that question, I just happen to have the answer. In the last 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 2022, 788 Simi Valley residents utilized the services of the Family Justice Center. That's people that get connected to Katie Torres, to Kellen King, to Dr. Anthony Walls, who learn from and are inspired by Aaliyah Deweese. This really shows the power and importance of victim-centered facilities in our county. And I think I speak for many of you here, we need to bring these services to the East County. We understand that there are transportation and physical barriers. So one of my commitments to you is that as we move forward, we reach out and make sure that we begin the foundation and the footprint for a Family Justice Center here in the East County. We're going to conclude, but before we do so, I want to thank everybody who made this possible. It is an incredible effort. The victim advocates, Chief Deputy Michael Jump, Chris Mitchell, the City of Simi Valley, all of you for being here. It's just, you have to plan, coordinate, and then achieve. And thanks to all of you, that's exactly what we did. We are going to march now. For those of you who recall, in the past, we would march around the government center with the Crime Victim Rights banner before us. We'll do so today around nearby City Hall. We want to make sure that today is not forgotten, that it remains a story of hope, inspiration, and resilience. Take what you learned from Ricole, what you heard from our detectives, the story of strength and recovery from Aaliyah, and share it with others, because the best way to fight crime is to prevent it in the first place. Each and every one of you, by working as a community, by being the special place we call Ventura County, can do exactly that. So in closing, I want to bring forward once again the beautiful voice of Amber Lee. Amber. And I also need to share with you that Amber is joined by Michael Kern on keyboards, who is a fellow prosecutor assigned to our sex crimes unit. Welcome, Michael.
can almost see it, the dream I'm dreaming. There's a voice inside my head say, you'll never reach it. Taking every move I make feels lost with no direction. My faith is shaking, but I gotta keep trying, gotta keep my head held high. There's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. Always gonna be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb. The struggles I'm facing, the chances I'm taking, sometimes might knock me down, but no, I'm not breaking. I may not know it, but these are the moments I'm gonna remember most. Just gotta keep on going. I gotta be strong. Gotta keep on pushing on. 'Cause there's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. Always gonna be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. There's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. Always gonna be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb.
I want to thank also our Family Justice Center Foundation. They were responsible for the Habit food truck, and they helped to provide much needed financial assistance to the CAMPO program as well as the Family Justice Center. Please join me as we climb that mountain together. Thank you.